What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to more C4. And we're about 2-ish weeks away from the start of the 2023 NFL Draft. And I think it's about time to go on a little bit of a run here, previewing the draft as it relates to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be a little bit of a mini-series. I'm going to go through every single position: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive line, D-tackle, edge, linebacker, corner, safety. I'm going to break down players I think the Philadelphia Eagles should be targeting in the 2023 NFL Draft as it relates to these players, as it relates to their picks in the draft. I think we can all assume that at some point we're going to acquire more picks, especially on day 3. We're a little bit light on day 3 picks. How he's going to trade down eventually, I don't know if it's going to be in the first round, second round. We're going to acquire more picks because it's just kind of what he does. And based on guys that I'm big fans of personally, guys that I think are going to be scheme fits for the Philadelphia Eagles, and everything in between, I'm going to highlight some players, and hopefully when all is said and done from this mini-series, we're going to have a great collection, a pool of players that come draft day, it'd be pretty cool to see if whoever Philly drafts kind of lines up with some of the guys that we previewed. Today, we're going to start with the quarterback spot, which before the Mariota signing was a priority for me. That was definitely a spot that I think the Philadelphia Eagles should address during the draft. I still think it is. I still think day 3, we absolutely need to consider a quarterback. But they did sign Marcus Mariota to a 1-year, $5 million deal. They're the quarterback factory. I mean, there's not too many teams in the NFL that value a backup quarterback more than the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm on the side of it's time to pay Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts earned himself franchise quarterback money. Don't know what the contract's going to be. Can't even guess what the contract's going to be. I'm going to assume that Howie Roseman is going to be like, hey, can we structure this like how Patrick Mahomes structured with the Chiefs, which gives Howie a little bit more flexibility over the years to make the salary cap work? That's probably going to be the case. Jalen Hurts seems like he'd be a good guy like that. But I don't think when you have a trillion-dollar quarterback that you should be paying top-tier backup money, which is what we're doing with Marcus Mariota. Now, I like Mariota in this offense more than I like Gardner Minshew. And I mean, Minshew was like arguably the best backup quarterback in the league since he's been here in Philadelphia. We saw last year that the offense kind of evolved past Gardner Minshew. You need to be able to have some mobility back there. Unfortunately, Minshew is more of he's a gamer. Like any of those tropes for like a scrappy white quarterback. Like you kind of threw that to Minshew, and it's not what we really need. And at least someone like Marcus Mariota, given Jalen Hurts' play style, you need a backup quarterback. And you need a backup quarterback who can come in and continue to operate like Jalen Hurts. And Mariota's going to be able to do that. Great athlete still, but I don't like paying backup quarterbacks. And we've always paid backup quarterbacks. It is what it is. But I think it's time to maximize our brand new offensive coordinator and get a little bit of salary cap relief by having a rookie quarterback on that rookie contract. Brian Johnson right now, he's our offensive coordinator, and the top of his resume to justify being our offensive coordinator is he developed Jalen Hurts. By all proof is in the pudding, it worked. That is how he got the job. He is a quarterback developer. That is the tagline to Brian Johnson. Is he going to be able to develop Ian Book and Marcus Mariota? Probably not. You're not working with a lot there. Mariota is Mariota at this point. I don't think you're going to be able to reinvent the wheel unless we get Chip Kelly out of retirement. It's probably not going to happen. So I have 3 quarterbacks, day 3 targets for the. We're not going to be drafting one of the early. Like, look, we got, you got all these QBs here. We are not going to be drafting Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. I think Richard will have. Oh no. I think once it comes to day 3. 5th, 6th, 7th round, 4th round's even a little bit rich. And again, we're going to assume that Howie Roseman's going to acquire more picks. That's where I would consider a backup quarterback. Not only from the standpoint of it's a lot more affordable than Marcus Mariota, but again, it goes back to Brian Johnson. I don't think we're maximizing his value on this staff without having someone else that he can work and develop and become the next Jalen Hurts, become the next project for Brian Johnson. It's not currently on the roster. And yes, we want all of his focus to continue to be on Jalen Hurts, but he can work with another quarterback. So I got 3 QBs. I definitely would like the Philadelphia Eagles to target. Up first, we're taking a look at this guy at a BYU, Jaron Hall, 6 feet tall, 210 pounds. He is a little bit older. BYU, Mormon school, did his religious mission. He's 25 years old, which is a pro. When you want to draft a backup quarterback, having a more mature player is always something of value because they're going to be a little bit more calmer under pressure. And I really do like Jaron Hall's game. I think when, let's look at his RAS here. Let's pop it up. Good athlete. 4.64. He's elite speed. His agility's pretty good. I think his underrated arm in this draft class. I think he's one of the better arms, one of the better pure arm talent. But I think the best thing about Jaron Hall, so you're getting an older player, so he's not going to be easily rattled. That's we're going through the checkbox of things ideally you get in a franchise backup quarterback. This is a guy that you draft and you hope he's your backup quarterback the next 3-4 years. So Jared Hall, still think there's a little bit of upside there. So yes, development from Brian Johnson. Number 2, he's a little bit older, which there comes a maturity with that. You need a mature backup quarterback. Plus, that probably would mesh well with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has the personality of an 80-year-old, war veteran. That's just the ultimate leader, can make you run through a wall, calm under pressure, nothing phases him. That's Jalen Hurts. Someone like Jared Hall definitely seems like he'd mesh with Jalen Hurts. But with Jared Hall, RPO experience. He has great, as you can see, great mobility, great athleticism. So he'd be able to come in versus, say, a Gardner Minshew. He'd be able to come in, run some scrambles, run the RPOs, get some QB sneaks going here, 4.63 in the 40-yard dash. I'm about it. But I think for me, and we're starting with Jared Hall because I think out of all these quarterbacks, he's going to be the most expensive in relation to what the draft picks are. Right now, he's projected to go 4th, 5th round on Dane Brugler's The Beast. Highly recommend checking that out. It's on The Athletic. You'd have to subscribe easily, even just for the month. The best draft guide going. But the best thing for Jared Hall, outside of all those things, right? Outside of the age, experience, RPOs, athleticism, for me, is that his accuracy. He's very smart with the football. Out of all the day 3 quarterbacks, he is the most that would mirror what Jalen Hurts brings in the offense. 3 years as a starter, if you will, for BYU. 67% completion. He only played 7 games there. But last 2 years as a starter, 2021 and 2022 with BYU. 64% completion percentage, only 5 picks on the year. And then in 2022, 66% completion percentage, only 6 picks on the year. Had 31 touchdowns. Now, what makes Jalen Hurts so good right now? Jalen Hurts, amongst a lot of things that makes Jalen Hurts a really good quarterback. But last year, he took massive strides in protecting the football. He was not throwing interceptions. It was fucking shocking when Jalen Hurts actually would throw a pick because he doesn't do that a lot. He did not put the ball in harm's way, and I feel like that's value in a backup quarterback. Some of these other quarterbacks I'm going to talk about might be a little bit more attainable on day 3, but they don't have the same poise and decision-making that Jared Hall has. So I think of all the quarterbacks, if it's the 5th round, for an example, Philly has a pick in the 5th round, Jared Hall's still on the board, and the other two quarterbacks I'm going to talk about are still there. I think there needs to be some serious value in the understanding that Jared Hall, stylistically, if you want the offense to have the least amount of hiccups, if Jalen Hurts has to exit a game, I truly do believe in this year's draft class, Jared Hall is that player. Ticks just a lot of boxes for the Philadelphia Eagles. The second quarterback I want to talk about is Clayton Tune from Houston. Look at this. I knew about him as Houston's air raidy to an extent, a little bit of a gimmicky offense. But what does that even mean today? The NFL's gimmicky, right? Air raid, a lot of respect. But he had 45 touchdowns last year at Houston. Showed a lot of, he really did show this athleticism last year. The offensive coordinator there in Houston finally let him get after it. He had more rushing production in 2022 than he did in, how many games did he play? Almost 30 games before that. 30 career college games, 5-year starter. 5 years, not a 5-year starter, but 5 years playing in college. And then last year he's like, hey, shit, this guy's an athlete. He had 500 yards rushing, 5 rushing touchdowns. But more impressively, 4,000 yards passing, 40 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 67% completion percentage. In 2021, 68% completion percentage, 30 touchdowns to 10 picks. He's just a great athlete who can make the right decisions. A little bit older as well, much like Jared Hall. He's 24 years old. So you're looking for the backup quarterback. He's a little bit more mature. I think there's some arm talent there that can work with Brian Johnson. Maybe not as much of a development as I think maybe Jared Hall could have. But again, we're dealing with a backup quarterback. I don't think, when you peg higher ceiling, if you will, with the developmental quarterback, that's under the assumption they can become a starter someday. We don't need a starter. We need someone that can just fill in for Jalen Hurts if he gets hurt. And I feel like Clayton Tune kind of falls in that mold again. But good passer, great athlete. He's accurate for the most part. But I just think great framework for a nice backup quarterback here. And with the athleticism, kind of fits what we need right now as a backup quarterback. He's projected right now going 5th, 6th round. So not as high as Jared Hall. But, it's still a somewhat sizable investment for the Philadelphia Eagles, given that, I don't think we're going to release Marcus Mariota if we decide to get a quarterback in the draft. This would most likely be our quarterback 3 if we want to roster 3. They haven't always done that. You always got to be a little bit conscientious of all 3 of these players. If Philly drafted them, you put them on the practice squad, you're playing with fire there a little bit. Other teams are going to want to try to poach some of these players, but I really do think with the athleticism, with the production that we saw in college, with the maturity that someone like Clayton Tune would have, he'd be a really, really nice option for the Philadelphia Eagles. But my favorite quarterback option, and I've been saying this since Christmas time, is DTR. DTR out of UCLA. Right now, he is projected to go 6th, 7th round. I'm all about it. He has the speed that we need. He's great explosions. He's the kind of guy, dual threat. He has 1,200 yards rushing and over 20 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years at UCLA. Last season, 27 passing touchdowns to 10 picks, 70% completion percentage. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's super accurate. I feel like with DTR, maybe that's the big knock against him right now, is that he kind of can get a little bit flustered a little bit, and that's when things start to fall apart, which is something that is tough to get coached out of. But of all the players, I want to hire him as my favorite because he's going to be the least expensive, I think, out of the other 2. The other 2 guys are a little bit more pro-ready. But there's more to work with Brian Johnson. If we wanted to find a backup quarterback, draft a quarterback this year that would maximize Brian Johnson as a developer, look no further than DTR. And I love seeing this. Why can't I scroll up here? Either way, they brought him in. Jack Kibb Sports. Philly is reportedly met with DTR. Brought him in for a visit. I love seeing that because he is exactly the mold that we need for the price that we want. I still think Jaron Hall is the best fit. Best overall fit. If we can land a day 3 quarterback, Hall. But best quarterback in terms of value for the Philadelphia Eagles and maximizing what we have right now on the staff in Brian Johnson, it's going to be DTR. I still think good release. At the combine, they were measuring throw power. I think he had the best out of all the quarterbacks. It looked weird, though. It looked like a fucking carnival game. But he scored like the best throw velocity, I believe it was, or something like that, like spins. And that was including like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson there. But he has NFL arm. He can play off script. He can operate. He's honestly, if I had to compare him, it's like Marcus Mariota when he was at Tennessee. Now, that's not saying like DTR is a first-round pick, but like obviously Marcus Mariota, probably year 2, year 3 at Tennessee, we're like, holy shit, maybe he's not our franchise quarterback, but maybe he can get developed there. Like that's kind of where I see DTR coming in. And you know what? He's like $4 million cheaper than having a Marcus Mariota on the roster. So I'm all about it. If we could target him, especially if he kind of falls in that 6-7 range, I'd absolutely be about DTR. I do think there is value in getting a young quarterback that can get molded and developed under Brian Johnson, and I think DTR would be the best fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. What do you think the Philadelphia Eagles should do? Do you think quarterback's a spot that you would rather wait, sit back, maybe get a UDFA and they can come and compete with Ian Book? Would you be worried that if we got a Jaron Hall, Clayton Tune, DTR, that if we play that like in and off the practice squad type game, it might be a waste of a pick because they're going to get poached by some other team in the NFL? It's interesting. I mean, looking at the other quarterbacks that, are UDFA range, Malik Cunningham out of Louisville is another really good athlete, ran a 4.53, but like he's really undersized. He's 5'11", 190 pounds. I'm not gonna lie, there's not much else out there that I think I would really consider developing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Sean Clifford out of Penn State's a pretty good athlete, but any Penn State fans can tell you you'd rather not. You'd rather not go into that situation there. I don't know. Maybe there's another day 3 quarterback, UDFA grade quarterback that you guys really kind of want the Philadelphia Eagles to target. But I really think those are my big 3. And grabbing a backup quarterback, I'd be very happy to do so on day 3. So that'll do it for me today, guys. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down maybe the most polarizing position for the Philadelphia Eagles ahead of this draft, the running back spot. We're going to break it down. And, I think it'll be a very interesting video, very open for debate amongst, it honestly seems like that's the big thing. It's not so much, do we get, Jalen Carter? Do we go defense? Do we go offense? Do we trade back? It's, do we get Bijan Robinson? Do we not get Bijan Robinson? I'll give you guys my thoughts on that tomorrow. But until then, thank you very much for watching. If your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys back in the next one. Peace out.